Exactly. So it's like a feedback loop. And I remember even just 5 years ago, finding the Pearson papers talking about the use of artificial intelligence in education, which is inherent in the educational technology space. And so, as these programs learn your child, then the question is to what end, right? And so, within that framing slide of a world where they're imagining much human work, including physical work, knowledge works, care work, intellectual work is outsourced to artificial systems. Is it in the interest of people who imagine that that is the future they want to have a well educated population who might question that future, who might question their position in that future and their agency in that future? And I would say the one thing in retrospect I have learned in looking back and understanding this bigger picture is that, while that is the Japan Science and Technology Agency Moonshot program, the globotics principle, this next phase of globalization, it is a worldwide program. It is a program that even if you were to step out of the existing system of education and homeschool or unschool your child, it's going to be about uh, artificial intelligence assigning what little work there is based on data analytics. And so, unless you're in a position to build an entirely different economic construct to live in for your child, when they're fed back into the workforce, they will be living in this same robot world space unless we refuse it. And I think these interests, while the charter school industry has been very convenient in that they're often allowed to uh, pursue innovative activities, sort of in air quotes, that the regular schools do not. And so they become a test bed for these technologies. I think there are many interests that would like for us to be pitted amongst each other about which is the better option. And in retrospect, what I realize is all children will be fed into this, whether your child is in parochial school, whether they are unschooled, whether they're in a charter school, whether they're in a traditional public school or a magnet public school. This future is an all consuming future that we can only unite against together. And so it really serves the interests of power for people to, within the system, be fighting for the crumbs and miss the bigger picture. And I think, that is something I only have come to over the past year in understanding the breadth and scope of what is underway. That there is, in my opinion, if they are able to pursue this and lock this in, that it will affect all children around the world. And so that we all have a responsibility, if we believe that this cyborg avatar capitalism future is not what we want, to speak now and to find common ground in that. And so this slide, the top image is from Deloitte, and they're talking about the spatial web. So, I would encourage people to start looking up the Internet of Things, which is the lower slide, the Auto ID Lab, these sensor technologies, and how your ability to move in the physical world will be controlled by the data that is attached to you and attached to that physical world. And understanding that these technological systems, the systems of the internet, are fundamentally military systems. So as we come to an engagement on this, while they may be enjoyable or convenient or fun, they ultimately serve the interests of power and defense. It is a surveillance technology, even though it might be framed as fun. The image below with the children in the headsets, that is, they are pitching augmented reality for preschool. Okay, so these are probably maybe three or 4-year-old children with virtual reality headsets on. And so they need for these children to become alienated from one another, from the world around them, and even from their own bodies to accomplish that end of that initial slide. And so to me, to see this image, there's another one that I've used in other presentations where it's a group of kindergartners on a rug, and they're all holding up tablets, the sort of, rugged plastic frame tablets, and in front of their faces, so you can't see their faces, and each tablet has a number on it. And I don't have that image here, but you can picture that essentially the value of These children are not seen as gifts, to society with unfulfilled talents to bring into the world, but really as matter, programmable matter to be slotted into a global economic system, to serve the needs of finance and to create this new world.
Right.
I mean, that's what's, I remember reading a report, it was from 2014 that was backed by the Ford Foundation, and it was the American Association of Museums. So it was the large accrediting body for the museum, the US National Museum systems. And they were essentially saying, their futurist Elizabeth Merritt, that they foresaw that schools would be gone and that museums would end up taking the place of the project-based learning element in schools because they were really good at projects. And within the paper that Elizabeth Merritt talked about, she said, that the schools needed to train people for a task rabbit economy, for a gig economy, that you will not have any stability, you will not have any benefits. You might not know from one week to the next what your work is. You're competing on a leaderboard, increasingly managed as AI, if they allow this, if we agree to allow this to happen to our children and future generations. And this will all run tied to one's blockchain identity. The other element of this that's important to understand is when you're hearing about coding, I think increasingly code will be the universal language, that there will be a push for reduced literacy and a shift towards digital media consumption and image consumption, where people can be programmed through the consumption of images and digital media that is advanced. And, it's a little overwhelming to imagine, but I think if you graphically put this out there, I don't think many people would see that image of preschool children and think that that is a humane way to treat children, especially if you understand that they may be pulling biometric or behavioral data analytics out of that headset.